Chris has Gone Gaming and CCC RC channel. And what we're going to be doing today, guys, is we're going to be doing some, dare I say, surgical-ish operations on Traxxas Slash. So basically what we've done is for the running the Spec Slash class, and let me hop up and grab the car real quick. You can run the aluminum shock caps, and I went on Amazon, gunned for the least expensive ones I could get, and that was the red Hobbypark. I'll warn you, I already did my car. I'm working on my daughter Chelsea's car now, and the guinea pig pretty much proved that they are very, very tight getting them on. I don't think that they damaged or warped the top of my shocks, but I will guarantee that they have a good pressurized seal on them. That's without a doubt. So shock mounts that Traxxas has on there. Let me get this battery out of here. And as you can tell, guys, these cars that we have are brand spanking new. Haven't even had a chance to do any of the setup work on them at all. But we will be getting them out on the track here before too long, hopefully. And got these awesome little wrenches right off of Amazon as well. And I've got they're plastic. I'm not a fan of that. But the Slash is a less expensive vehicle, and so it does help. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by pulling my front shocks off, and then I'm going to spin the car around and pull the receiver covers and everything off of them, and then we'll get into the transponder a little bit. One of the things I do like to do is put my screws back in the holes that I pulled them out of. One, makes reassembly easier because you know what screw went where, and it also keeps you from losing them in general. So give it a quick spin, and we'll pull them both off. One of the things that I do like to do, and I let them sit and just drip all the old shock oil out for a while. Granted, these are brand spanking new, so it's not like it's contaminated, but I will be putting in a different shock or weight on it. But I did download a car setup directly from Traxxas's website. That's just kind of a baseline, and it seems like that's what most everybody's running. And so I'm going to put the 50 weight in the front and 60 in the back. And boy, that baby's wanting to be temperamental. And of course, when I pop that lower screw out, the shock went all the way through, and then the guide decides to hang up and not come all the way through. There you go, all the way back. So now, as you can tell, no front shocks. She knows to sit down and rest. Being that this is the stopper, it does hang out or set still pretty high, so I'm not going to have too much issue with swapping or putting the transponder in. Get those screws in there real quick. Alright, so let's see, right on off. I'll set that down for just a minute. I do use old pill bottle for draining my shocks. We'll go ahead, and also another thing that I like to use is I've got a magnetic dish that I'll put all my screws into. It makes life a little bit easier. When I'm rebuilding these, the first one that I did, there's your packaging. This is, let's see, They called it Hobbypark aluminum shock RC car setup for red X0029VQ00PN. These are the ones that I ordered that said they were for the Slash. The red caps were on sale from wanting to say it was $11.99, very reasonable. And when you're setting up something for a spec class, then it's cheaper is better. We'll put it that way. So just go ahead and get this all opened up. Get all of my little dish here. And again, I will apologize for my messy workbench here, but yeah, it is what it is. There's advantages to not having a super wide angle camera. Basically just taking all the retainers and everything off of it. Make sure that your lower cap is tight, because that's something that was built by the factory and you just never know. T-handle in there, or T-handle, or a Allen wrench in. And then all I will do is I will just pull that off. Pull the bladder out right there. Set my bladder off to the side. And I will take a different T-handle and just let that sit on there. And what I do, just as an example, I'll stick my T-handle there and just set it on top of the pill bottle. And then I'll let it drain. Set the old shock caps off to the side. And that spring retainer is in that cup as well. And then again, just do the exact same thing with the second one. Grab my bladder, so pull that off first, set it off to the side. And again, just flip that baby over and let her drain. Now with my luck, the 1.3mm handle that I'm going to need. I do recommend, guys, throw your old caps into a bag or something just so you can keep them around just in case of an emergency. Not that you should hopefully ever have an issue with losing one of them, but you never know what's going to happen in a race. Put the extra bags off to the side. And we'll get the car up here. I'm going to set it the direction to where I've got the receiver right in front of me. So the MRT transponders, let me go ahead and track that other one down. Just had it in my hand, and of course set it down somewhere and didn't see where I put it. And that never fails. And the fun of live broadcasting is, yep, there it is. So basically it comes packaged just like that. Let's see here, there you go. It's the MRT. Hopefully it is reversing this so you guys are seeing it straight. My view is not showing lettering in the correct direction. But it's just a basic transponder. It's got three screw mounts that are pretty much coincident to how the AMD is, or the MyLapse one is. I'm going to go ahead and set it down. And I do need to track down my two-sided tape, so that's going to take me just a moment, guys. I'll be right back. It never fails when you think you got everything that you need. Something's always missing. So just hang tight for a minute. Alright, now there's always a couple of different routes you can go, because we may end up swapping this in and out with other vehicles. I'm going to go ahead and just use Velcro. Velcro is not the best thing to use attaching electronics, because it can have a static charge to it. But overall, all in all, overdoing this for years and years, I've never had it do anything really negative to any of my vehicles. So, alright, so just real basic, and yes, the shocks are still dripping the last bit of it out of them. And little two-sided tape on the Velcro. Real easy to stick that on there. Just push it on real good, and then swing the car right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it right here, as far forward as I can. And I mean, let's face it, if you're in a neck-and-neck race with somebody, having the opportunity to have your transponder cross the line before theirs, you know, granted, with that said, just how accurate this is, we were over at Gold Star Hobbies on Friday, and we were testing all of our equipment out. And we had the cars in the bag and walked across the finish line, and they were on our shoulders, and it still went off. So would it necessarily pick it up? You know, if you're bumper to bumper and a photo finish, is it going to necessarily give you the win versus your competition? Yeah, I'm not so sure. So anyway, as you can see, we've got the transponder hooked up right there, or plugged in. And so the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pull apart the receiver case, and I'm going to try to plug this into the OEM. Although I've got another receiver for Chelsea, we're going to try to run the stock Traxxas TQ radio system on hers for now. Whereas with mine, I went ahead and put in an aftermarket. We're running Fly Sky radios that we tested out this weekend as well, and are happy with them. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and do my best to leave this thing as much stock as possible. And let's see here. And you can also see that the TQ radio is set up for vehicles that possibly are running multiple speed controls, as it has 2 channel 1 output ports. Alright. Yeah, Traxxas also has a nice little waterproof case on here. Don't plan on ever running my cars directly through water if I can avoid it. And so I'm not super worried about them getting waterlogged. Let's see if we can get the... Interesting, it's some little greasy silicone sealant. Okay. Looks like I may have to pull my receiver case or box out completely so I can try to get that lead through there. Of course, it never makes anything super easy. This is one of those times where it would be very handy to have an extra one. Okay. Now, I cannot see. A little bit of a slot there I can feed it through. I'm glad I did take it off, because it just, otherwise I wouldn't be have any capability of getting into that slot at all. Get that pulled through. And I'm just going to plug that into that. Normally you plug it into a receiver or a battery jack, and that way it's got power and everything to it. What I'm going to do is match up my black wires with my other connections. I'm just going to plug it into that third channel for now. If we get to the track and it doesn't work, then I'll find a different alternative, but the third channel should work because basically it's sending power to it anyway. It's just that other wire that sends your signal. So, all right, we'll strap this baby back in, and then we'll put the seal back on it. So really it was that simple to install. You just plug it in. With me putting it as far away from the receiver box as I could, and away from all the wires, it stretches it out real good where I don't have to worry too much about putting a zip tie on those wires to hold it in and hold it off out of the way. And it never fails when you go put a wire back on or back in, or put the screw back in, you've got a wire sticking in the way. There we go. And put the cover back on it real fast. Again, not planning on running my cars in the water, but it never hurts to leave any waterproofing stuff on them as you can. And we've got, like I was saying earlier, the plan is to run these cars in spec. Chelsea will be running Future Champions at first, and then I'll be running the spec slash car, or I want to say car, the spec slash class to start with. Whether we eventually graduate and decide to move on to the get a little bit more serious and get a better short course truck or not, that's time will tell. I mean, it's been a good 10-15 years since I've raced regularly, and you know, just trying to get back in and have some fun with my daughter. So all right, so that's that part of the surgery. Now that we've had the shocks have had time to sit there and drain out, we'll slide this baby over here. Hopefully it won't, it looks like it's going to try to slide up, fall its way off the workbench. We will start working on the shocks here. And it is a rear engine, so you're going to have a heavier weight shock oil in the back. For me, I can run any silicone shock oil, whether I'm running the factory team, which is associated, or I like low C as well. So either work perfectly well. You know, it's whatever is close and whatever you can get your paws on. So with the aluminum shock caps, I'll hold it up here. Doesn't look like it wants to focus real well, but they're pretty straightforward, decent quality from the looks of it. The internal looks decent. Like I said, the only thing that kind of concerned me when I did my car was just how hard it was to plug it in, or screw it on, I should say. Make a quick note here. What I will usually do is just go with these bladders, put them in, just start to put them in, whether I use an Allen wrench or X-Acto blade to make sure that it seats down there on the bottom to get that bladder all the way in there. And there you have that. Shock oil, pretty straightforward in putting it in. Just pour it in. Now with the bladders on these, I will go ahead and run my shock piston up. I'll fill the oil all the way up. I know I'm going to make a mess, but with these bladders, You know, you can give it a couple of pumps to get any air that's underneath the piston to come up. But like I was saying, at this point, once I've got everything in there, I'll go ahead and bring my piston up to where it's almost all the way to the top. And then that way what it's going to do is you get a certain amount of pressurization with the bladders for the shocks, but you just screw it on and just give it time to displace that oil, and it's okay if it pushes the oil out. You can tighten it down, give your shock a pump or two. I've got real good, that one worked out just about perfect, and then just finish threading it on. Run it till it bottoms. You don't want to over tighten it because you are dealing with plastic shock bodies, and that's about the best shock reassembly I've done probably in my lifetime. So at least I got it on camera so you guys all got to see it. And then I'll just slide all the parts back on it. Spring, clamps, retainers, everything. Now, it does have, they do come with some aluminum spacers on it to put on the shocks, or excuse me, put on the screws. It also comes with some pretty long, well, much longer screws. But what you do want to do is the screw heads aren't quite big enough to not let the shock pop off. So you got to put a little bit of a washer on there, and that washer is really not very big. But it's just enough that you don't have to worry about getting it to pull through. And so we'll slip that spacer on there. That spacer will slip into the shock. You can call it a spacer, guide, whatever you want to call it. And I almost always do the top shock part first. I know it's probably a personal preference thing. Just about everybody probably does it a little bit different. And then you just want to snug that down. You don't want it to be so tight that the shock won't move, but you don't want it so loose that the shock flops any. Okay, there we go. And the top part's done. The bottom one I'll just use the original screw. And don't change the bottom hardware at all on the shock itself or attachments. Okay, and I've got that side on. Everything seems to work appropriately. And we'll switch over to the other side and make sure that bottom cap is on there good. And it does help before you start putting oil in anything, make sure you got that bladder in that shock cap. Nothing worse than sitting there trying to balance holding a shock full of oil in the shock cap that you're trying to get the bladder into. Alright, and again, just pour it on in there. That shock or that piston a couple of pulls to make sure there's no air inside of it, or underneath it I should say. Fill the top up even more. Slide it up. And that one with the piston all the way up, the oil's right on the top, so I'm going to go a little slower on putting this cap on. just to do my best to let it bleed off the excess oil. And try not to pressurize the shock while I do it. And with this on the plastic, you do want to make sure that you've got that you're not cross-threading it before you get too aggressive on tightening. Okay. And that shock actually did pressurize, so I'm going to loosen it back up. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit on the tough side, and for the lack of having the right sized crescent wrench, I have pliers, and I know without a doubt I'm going to booger things up doing it this way. Hopefully I didn't too much. I scratched up a little bit, but not bad enough that it should damage anything or cause any issues. So we will pull this off, push my piston back up, and see if we can get some oil to bleed out. And looks like my bladder is good. And basically, you want to get it to bleed, you just, there we go, got a few bubbles popping out. You just go slow and tighten it down. Because basically what's going to happen is as you tighten, it's going to displace that oil. There we go. Shock's working pretty good. A little pressurized to it, but not bad. I'm going to go ahead and roll with it. And again, you slap everything back together. Your retainer, your spring, your other spring retainer. Find that screw, washer, and the fitting. Then just putting it all together. A little awkward to put it on the opposite side here. Normally when I have a cleaner workbench, I would just turn the car to face me, and then that way everything's right in front of me. But trying to get it on camera and not having a super clean workbench just, you know, makes it a little rougher to do. So we're going to flip it around here. Make sure I clean everything out of the way. And then we're going to do the other side. So we haven't got it out on the track, my car, I should say, out on the track yet with these shock caps. I can tell you, to be completely honest, with as tight as and snug as they are, they're not going to give any problems with popping off or trying to break on us in any way. Not like a plastic one like the originals are, could do. I was definitely very concerned. The Arma Fury I've got, we took it up to Gold Star Hobbies and ran a couple of laps, launched it off the wooden jumps twice, and I blew a shock cap off of it, which, you know, put a damper on a day of just kind of playing. But you know, indoor carpet tracks aren't necessarily what these SCTs are designed for. But as you can see, guys, very straightforward. Quality on them is decent. We'll get it out on the track, hopefully get some videos shot of it, and be able to give you guys a rundown on a lot more than just a real quick installation. I'm not going to make you guys be bored and watch me do the rear shocks. Exact same process as doing the front shocks. And it just slips on there just as easy. Very simple process. The Hobbypark ones seem to be decent quality, short of any kind of manufacturing defect, which I haven't seen yet on any of the ones that I put on my car or on Chelsea's car have had any issues. So I look forward to thinking that they're gonna do well for us. With that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe buttons or the follow buttons to whether you're watching us on Twitch or YouTube. Fun of live television. With that said, guys, thanks again. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, cctravelchannel.com, apparelbyccc.com, as well as CelineSlotChannel.com. We had some earlier videos tonight of us up at Choctaw Casino, where we had some great success and a lot of fun. And again, guys, check it out. Let us know what you think, and feel free to leave us comments. Let us know your thoughts on these products if you've had any experiences with them. And so far so good. Like I said, that transponder, we ran that in Chelsea's Mini B up at Gold Star the other day. It worked perfectly fine. And these shock caps, I've just got them put on my truck first, and now I'm putting them on Chelsea's. And we shouldn't. I don't foresee there being any issues with them. With all my years of experience putting shock caps on RC shocks, they look like they're going to do just fine. So with that said, guys, again, thank you for watching, and we will see you all soon.